So I'm going to continue on the budgeting topic. In Jewish culture, what they call the poor man's meal for Sabbath was something called chulin, which is basically a stew that you cook for 24 hours. You would use a crock pot and you make sure you get all those good stuff in there. You would put beans, you would put barley, you would put some meat and potatoes and onions, and that was it. And then you would put some liquid, some water and whatever, some spices. And that was what they did back in the olden days. And it's a continued traditional food that we eat now. And I always laughed because I grew up on it, not realizing obviously you're adding some things that maybe make it a little bit unhealthier, but you're really having all of those good ingredients that we need. And that's why I'm saying stews and soups and those things are really great vehicles for making sure we're getting all of the macronutrients that we need. And those are really what those meals on a budget should be, because we want to make sure we're getting all of them, but we also don't want to cheap out when it comes to the nutrients that we're going to put in our body. So we really want to make sure that we're getting all of those macronutrients. That's going to be the most important part. And there's so many budget-friendly ways to do that. Stocking up on grains that we're using a lot in bulk, also stocking up on frozen fruits and vegetables in bulk, beans, if that's something that we're going to use a lot of, buying all of that in bulk, that will also be really helpful. Also planning ahead. I know people don't love planning ahead, but planning ahead is really just the best budget-friendly way to eat nutritiously, because we're going to be able to plan our menus, even planning our menus for the week. I know I've spoken a lot about meal prepping and meal planning, and that really can look 100 different ways for everybody. Some people, it is really just making meals in the beginning of the week and putting them in the fridge and the freezer for the whole week. For some people, it's cutting up vegetables, it's cutting up fruit, it's just making a menu, ordering the groceries that they need for the week. All of that is really going to help save money. I do this every single week, and I've seen the differences in my spending for my family, and it is cut in half just from doing this menu planning and just buying what I need instead of being like, today I want this, today I want this. And there are times I'm really not in the mood that day. Like I'll say Wednesday I'm making like a fish and whatever, and sometimes I'm not in the mood for it, and so I'll switch around the days of the week. But just generally knowing what you're making during the week is going to be super, super helpful. Even if you're by yourself, even if it's for you and one other person, whatever it is, it's really going to be helpful. It is really going to save you money. I cannot even stress enough how much that's going to save for you, and making sure again that we're getting those macronutrients, the lean proteins, the complex carbohydrates, and the healthy fats. Making sure we're getting that in our meals is going to be super important, and it's really just the best way to eat on a budget and make sure that we're getting all the nutrients that we need.
Today I'm not exactly doing a menu on a budget, but I'm doing international. Some of the ingredients are really reasonably priced, like cabbage and carrots, and you don't have to use meat. Today I use meat just a little bit, and I'm going to make a Chinese cabbage stir fry with a side of bok choy. I put a little bit of sesame oil in the pan in my wok, and I'm going to grate this up. Let's turn this down a little bit because I do smell the oil. Now I have some fresh ginger here. Usually I would put the mushrooms in first. I bought mushrooms. This was just an add-on. We definitely don't have mushrooms, but it was on sale yesterday. I was like, you know what? I love mushroom, so I'm going to use it. Now it's fragrant. Normally I put my mushrooms in first, but I cooked them before class, so I'm just going to put the carrots. I did them with my grater early this morning, my special grater. Get in there. You're not wasting the carrots.
They're hanging on.
They're hanging on by a thread. I'm going to put my carrots in there. Then I'm going to put my cabbage. And I also did my chopped meat. I always try and buy 90 lean and 10% fat. But even after I finish cooking the chopped meat off, I always drain it and rinse it. But you definitely do not have to have this in your meal. Put cabbage in there now. A cabbage is actually one of my favorite vegetables. We were talking about favorite. I love cabbage, and you can do it so many different ways. So you buy a big cabbage, you could do a coleslaw with it, you could cook it, you can roast it. You can even have a cabbage chip if you put them in the air fryer. I have some scallions in there, spring onions, I'm going to add them. I left them till the end because I actually like a little bit of a bite to my spring onion. You can put them in first if you want. I'm going to add the cooked mushrooms. While that's just cooking for a couple of minutes, I don't want to cook it too long. I'm going to make the sauce that goes in there. I have a little bit of broth in here. I'm going to put a quarter of a cup of soy sauce. I'm going to do half of this. The Kikkoman soy sauce is very salty. I use the Trader Joe's one. You could probably do just a tiny bit less of the Kikkoman. I'm going to pour a tablespoon of oyster sauce. So we're going to do a little bit of that here. And then we're going to do 1 tablespoon of rice wine vinegar. And I'm going to put honey. You can put like a sachet of brown sugar in it, or you can just put a little bit of honey. I'm going to use honey. A little bit of honey in there. And then lastly, I'm going to use some cornstarch. 1.5 teaspoons of cornstarch. So there you have it. And that is going to thicken up wonderfully once it's in the thing. Give it a good whisk so you get all them lumps out. I'm going to put this in here. So I'm going to add the meat back. And then I'm going to add this into the thing, and that's going to thicken up beautiful. Let me show you how everything comes out. I did my rice this morning. I put in the little Pyrex dishes and just put a little bit of avocado oil on the outside, and it comes out really nice. So you have your beef stir fry. My water of the week this week is apple and lime. I did the same flavors for the bok choy. I was going to put the bok choy in there, but I felt like it might overtake the cabbage and stuff. So I was like, you know what, I'll do it inside.
I actually had a bunch of eggplant in my fridge and I wanted to use it up, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. I know in Bulgarian cooking, they do a lot of fresh herbs and like no bake recipes, but like a lot of those types of salads. I'm doing an Bulgarian eggplant salad today. It's super easy ingredients. What I did do, and I'm going to take it out of the oven right now, is I cut up my eggplant. I actually was going to do this in eggplant slices and layer it, but then I decided I wanted to make it more into a salad. I diced up my eggplant into bigger cubes. Show it to you. We'll just get it out of the oven. I just wanted to put it into the oven so that I could build it with you. It probably needs like another 10 minutes, and the final one I'll show you is a little bit more charred. But this is how the eggplant looks. It should get a little bit more brown, but I like to keep it bigger. You can chop it up smaller if you want. I just happen to like it in bigger chunks. And then the other ingredients that we're going to be using are some tomatoes. So you're going to take some tomatoes. The reason I'm using cherry tomatoes is they're a little bit sweeter, and you really do want that sweetness with the bitterness of the eggplant. And actually, on that note, I did salt my eggplant for 30 minutes before cubing it because I wanted to take out the water. It's going to cook better. It's going to brown more because otherwise it's just going to steam up. And it's possible that I also didn't salt that as much as the one that I did before, or salt it for as long. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bowl. I'm just going to build my salad now. And I'm going to just put some eggplant in here. It's pretty hot still. It just got out of the oven. You can eat this hot or cold. I actually prefer it colder, so not freezing. I do prefer it colder, so I'm going to spoon in the eggplant. I think that's enough right now. So I have my eggplant, it's hot, and then I'm going to take my cherry tomatoes, and again, you want them to be a little bit on the sweeter side just because you want to make sure you're balancing out those flavors. Then I'm going to put some parsley. So I have some parsley here, and you can also put that at the end. And by the way, you can really leave it like this. You can just then put some salt and pepper, and that's really it. But I'm not going to add salt to this because I am going to add some Bulgarian feta. So I have my feta, and that's going to give a little bit of protein here. So this is going to be lunch today. I'm getting all my good stuff in here. So I'm going to put my feta there because it's like a salad and you want something putting it all together. I'm going to take my little Graza drizzle oil and just drizzle it over the top. And that is really it. You can eat this so good. The flavors go so well together. It's super, super easy. I think we all know feta and tomato goes really well, but the feta with the eggplant surprisingly goes super well, super delicious. And it's just a really fresh, good summer recipe.